Carter, do you extend them, or do you worry about? And I've heard this internally. There has been concerns that, like, okay, do we pay this guy 3 years into his NFL career, and he hasn't quite showed you what he could be on a consistent level? Do you worry about paying him too early in his career, and whether he'll kind of be as motivated once he's getting, let's say, $45 million a year, which is what probably going to happen in terms of his market value.
Both of those things, pay him, and I worry about paying him. And I think it's a weird position that both parties are kind of in. You mentioned the Eagles side. Do we pay this guy 3 years into his NFL career? He hasn't shown. There's been flashes of absolute dominance, and then how real is the shoulder injury? How the other stuff, the not off field concerns, the way he acts on the field at times. There are concerns about the long term, about the viability of Jalen Carter as a long term player that you want to invest 5 years in and all this money, because if you're wrong and he's not that player, it sets you back. But at the same time, you strike when you can, right? That you might be able to get him at slightly cheaper now, maybe, than if he comes back this season and returns to 2024 Jalen Carter. And then if you're Drew Rosenhaus, where are you in this guy's got shoulder injuries? I'm not sure that we'd be smart to have a bet on yourself type of season, because maybe we know that hey, the shoulder injury is probably going to linger a little bit, or maybe he won't be. We can't guarantee. I mean, obviously they can't guarantee that he's going to be 2024 Jalen Carter, but it's a risk, right? And Rosenhaus has been doing this for a long time, so he knows how to play these things. I think the deal makes sense. I think getting a deal done right now makes sense for both teams. The Eagles, yeah, you worry about it, but you drafted the guy, you've been developing the guy, you've seen flashes of the absolute brilliance that he is capable of bringing to the field. And I think you bite your tongue and you do the deal in hopes that, if you wait a year and you still want to bring him back, you might have to pay even more money. And so I don't know. It's a weird spot. It's like a fascinating time for the Jalen Carter situation to me this offseason. I would get a deal done if I'm the Eagles for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. I think right now they have leverage. Yeah, he's not coming off a great year, so he's going to get paid top dollar. He's going to get the highest APY, average per year, of anybody at the defensive tackle position. But you want to get ahead of it, right? You want to get ahead of the exploding salary cap. Do it now. Do it early in the process. This has long been the Eagles' philosophy. My guess is that this is something that will eventually get done. Aside of all the concerns, there are stipulations you can put in a contract about if there are anything that happens off the field. We do know about the most public thing that had happened to Jalen Carter before the draft, which caused him to drop, or at least not being the draft boards for some teams. The incident following the Georgia National Championship, it was drag racing and two people died. But there have been public incidents, these transgressions that have happened in terms of like late for a practice. Didn't start. I guess it was against the Saints, or was it the Falcons 2 years ago? I understand there's been a few things here and there. I mean, he takes a lot of internal, let's say, I don't want to say babysitting, but look, they understand when they drafted this guy what it's going to take. They felt they had the support staff to help him, and I think a lot of it starts with having Jordan Davis here. And I wrote about this in my column the other day. The question is, like, how much did that factor into the extension for Jordan Davis? Because did they overpay? Is 20 APY too much for a guy who really is just kind of, I wouldn't say he's primarily exclusively a run stopper. He can pass rush. The pass rush was better, but on obvious passing downs, he wasn't out there. It was Jalen Carter and Moro Ajomo, who could also be extended as well. And, his numbers still weren't great. He was in like the bottom, I think it was less than 20% in terms of, a pressure rate. So is that going to get better? I think they believe in Jordan Davis. I think that there's obviously a lot of room to grow. He spoke about as much the other day at the news conference, of which Jalen Carter was also there. Good optics for him. If you want to show that you're kind of on board and you're going to become a franchise cornerstone. So, and if you factor in the 5th year salary when the Eagles picked up the option, it's like 22 a year. So maybe, a little more than you expected, not crazy amount. But I think, these two guys, like, they've been joined at the hip since they've been at Georgia. The Eagles have now made them joined at the hip, and, they're at the centerpiece of this defense. And I think both help each other in terms of like getting contract extensions, right? Jalen Carter needs Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis needs Jalen Carter, right? I don't think he, would have gotten what he got if he wasn't viewed as someone that, can keep Jalen Carter in line. From what I understand, I've repeated teammates have told me this. Like, if there's one guy he listens to, it's Jordan Davis. Like, Jordan can get his ear, and Jordan's really developed into a leader, not just for Jalen Carter, but for the entire unit. But that being said, if you step back, how good of a business sense is that? So that's kind of always been my question mark about these two guys. Yeah, there's always typically a risk when you're given that big second contract. It's typically not about what you've done, it's about what they expect you to do. But you're talking about two guys, not just one guy. And they're both really good players. So, it's not like you're taking a wild gamble, but can they be great, consistently great? And can they offset what you're going to lack at the edge position and at other positions in terms of what you pay on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, when you frame it that way, when like you add all the layers of context to Jordan Davis, the leader, and maybe Jordan Davis, the Jalen Carter whisperer, it makes it even more outrageous that the Eagles would be entertaining offers for Jalen Carter. Because why would you pay Jordan Davis this type of contract if you didn't also plan to pair him with Jalen Carter? And obviously, I think we both know that we both expect that they want to pay Jalen Carter. And so maybe you asked a little earlier, is it an overpay? I think if we look at what Jordan Davis has done in the last year, he has earned himself a new contract. This contract, I don't know. I do think it was kind of like an overpay. I don't know that like he does anything that's like so remarkable that I'd want to give the guy that type of deal. But at the same time, if you're going to pair him with Jalen Carter, and there's all of these intangibles that add into that decision, I think it makes the term a little more digestible, I guess, in some ways, right? Like maybe his leadership role in Jalen Carter's like life is like worth $2 million per year or whatever it is.
I don't want to like take away from what Jordan Davis has done. I mean, he gets a lot of credit. He's a great guy in terms of like what he did in terms of the conditioning. And look, he is kind of vital to what they do. No team has as many light boxes against the run as the Eagles over the last 2 years with Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator, because Jordan Davis can eat up blockers, and they don't have to devote as many numbers in the box. They can have guys in coverage, which is why they've had one of the best, if not the best, pass defense over the last 2 years. He is a vital cog to this defense and this scheme. And of course, you don't know if Vic Fangio is going to last here. He's not going to retire next year. And there's always been these rumblings about Jim Schwartz possibly succeeding him, which is a completely different scheme. How does Jordan Davis factor in that? I'm getting ahead of myself here, although I should mention just the one thing for those people who think Jim Schwartz is guaranteed to step into Vic Fangio's shoes next offseason if Vic Fangio were to retire. I think the Browns still have an option year in his contract. And I don't think they're going to let him out of his contract to go jump to the Eagles. That's kind of something I heard. The little birdie told me that one. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, but to get back to and to kind of end the Jordan Davis talk here, he's done a lot. He deserves a lot of credit. It's not a horrible signing. It makes sense. It's just a little more than I was expecting them to sign, to sign him to.